Good evening, dear students. Welcome to Bajirao IAS Academy, the Hindu News Analysis. Today is 20th September 2024, and in this session, we will be discussing few important articles which were covered in different newspapers. And before discussing them, you all knew that yesterday there was a prelims practice question, and in fact, it is a map-based prelims practice question. And as I've already told you and repeatedly told you that Middle East is very important in terms of its geography, in terms of different countries sharing their borders with each other, because Middle East is always a volatile region and there's always instability, and because of that reason there is a fair chance of asking questions from the Middle East and its geography. And coming back to the question is arrange the following places from west to east. So the countries are Lebanon, Cyprus, Iraq and Jordan. So select the correct answer code. Now if you look at the map very clearly in the Middle Eastern region, Cyprus is almost located in the Mediterranean Sea, south of Turkey. So we could say that Cyprus is the westernmost country, and after Cyprus, Lebanon is the next westernmost country, followed by Jordan and Iraq. Now if you can go through this particular order, first, as I've already told you, that Cyprus is the westernmost part of all these countries, or westernmost country among all these places, followed by the Lebanon. So therefore there are two options only, option B and option C, and after that Jordan would be the next westernmost, followed by the Iraq. So therefore the correct answer for this question is option B, 2, 1, 4, 3. And if you carefully look at this map, as I've already told you, that this is Cyprus, right? So you could clearly see here this region is Cyprus, and followed by Cyprus you can also see this is the location of Lebanon, and after the location of the Lebanon, the next westernmost would be the Jordan, and followed by the Iraq, right? So option B is the correct answer for this question. And apart from this, you try to identify different countries and different landforms, different water bodies which are located in the Middle Eastern region, right? So it is very important from your exam point of view, because there's Gulf of Aden, you have to identify this Gulf of Aden, Gulf of Oman and Strait of Hormuz, Persian Gulf, and all these things have to be identified, because that would be very important for your examination, right? So today also I have a one prelims practice question. Question is, the Digital Payments Index DPI is released by which of the following organizations or agencies? Option A, Indian Banks Association, option B, Reserve Bank of India, option C, Niti Aayog, and option D, National Statistical Office, right? This is also very important from the state public service commission's perspective, and also UPSC may also ask such questions. So therefore try to answer this question in the comment section, and the correct answer will be providing you in tomorrow's class. And let's get back into the discussion, and the first article which is given in the Hindu newspaper, and it is also very important from both prelims perspective and also mains perspective, because previously there were number of questions which are based on the Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization. Now initially this particular civilization which was unearthed near around Indus River was known as Indus Valley civilization, but over a period of time more and more sites they started locating far away from the Indus River, and because of that reason this civilization was came to be known as Harappan civilization, because the first city which was discovered, which was found, was the Harappan city, and because of that reason now it is called as Harappan civilization. As I've already told you that from the from the exam perspective, for prelims it is very important. There were number of questions which were asked based off from this Harappan civilization, and apart from that there's also general studies paper 1. In general studies paper 1 perspective also art and culture, so there may be questions about the town planning which was which was there in the Harappan civilization, and the crafts, everything will be asked from Harappan civilization. So we'll try to look into this article. We'll also try to look into some important features of the Harappan civilization. Now on September 20th 2024, a centenary celebration of John Marshall's groundbreaking article in the Illustrated London News is being observed. Now I'll explain you who is John Marshall. John Marshall was the person who discovered this Harappan civilization for the first time, and this John Marshall, a British official, when this Indus Valley civilization or the Harappan civilization was discovered, it was discovered during the British India. So therefore, on September 20th, 2024, a centenary of John Marshall's groundbreaking article. So the article was "The Illustrated London News is being observed," and in fact, John Marshall was the then Director General of the Archaeological Survey of India, and in fact, this Archaeological Survey of India, when John Marshall was John Marshall was the Director General of this ASI, so it was announced discovery of the Indus Valley civilization. It was popularly known as Harappan civilization. The reason for that I have already explained to you, because more number of sites were founded. They started founding more number of sites near Indus River, but over a period of time, more and more sites are discovered far away from the Indus River. Because of that reason, it was called as Harappan civilization, and Harappan is a name of the city which was first discovered as part of this large civilization in the northwestern part of India. I hope all of you knew about the Indus Valley civilizations and its location, where exactly it is located. So most of the Indus Valley civilization is located in the present day Pakistan, right? So this is somewhere roughly, this is the location of the Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization. So this event has a significant historical implications, because as it revealed a sophisticated urban culture, or urban culture, urban civilization with a great town planning in the southeast region or South Asian region, which was in existence way back in 2500 years, reshaping our understandings of ancient Indian history. Now, when we talk about the Harappan civilization, so this Harappan civilization is also called as Indus Valley civilization, because some of the Harappan civilization are also located very close to this Indus River, and because of that particular reason, it is known as the Indus civilization. And this Harappan civilization was in a flourishing state during the Bronze Age. Generally, according to the historians, Bronze Age ranges from 3300 BC to 1300 BC. And there are other important civilizations also which were known as contemporary civilizations of this Indus Valley civilization. So those civilizations were Egyptian civilization that was in existence from 7000 BC to 3000 BC, and Mesopotamian civilization. So BC here means that before the birth of the Jesus Christ, so before Christ, BC. So Egyptian civilization, which was also almost like a contemporary civilization to the Indus Valley civilization, that was existed from 7000 BC to 3000 BC, and Mesopotamian civilization, so that was existed from 6500 BC to 3100 BC. And in fact, when we specifically talk about the special features of the Harappan civilization or the Indus Valley civilization, so it is characterized by some of advanced town planning. Because if you look at the town planning of the urban civilization, there are a number of features. For example, roads cutting across right angles. This is one feature, roads cutting across right angles. And there's a grid pattern when it comes to designing their streets, their houses. So you could clearly see that there's a proper grid pattern in the planning, town planning, and a drainage system, a well developed drainage system, and even underground drainage system was also prevalent. And when we talk about the underground drainage system, the underground drainage system is covered by the stone slabs. So they have used the stone slabs to cover the drains as well. And apart from that, they widely used burnt brick I hope all of you knew about these features of town planning of Indus Valley civilization. They widely used the burnt brick when it comes to the construction, and there were also rich granaries to store food grains both in Harappa as well as in Mohenjo-daro, and these granaries used to store food grains on a large quantities. And also there was a great bath at Mohenjo-daro. So maybe this bath was used for the religious purposes, and even the places were divided into the citadel and the lower town. Right, so this is how the towns of the Harappan civilization were very elaboratively planned, and so there is no match of this Indus Valley civilization with the any contemporary civilization that was existing at that point of time. Even historians believes that the present society needs to learn a lot of things from the Indus Valley civilization and its town planning. So therefore they have the elaborate town planning, and they also have had the agricultural practices, because they cultivated a wide variety of crops including rice, wheat, barley, cotton. So all these crops were cultivated by the people of Indus Valley civilization, and they also started settled agriculture and even domestication of the animals. Domestication of animals was also done by the people of Indus Valley civilization, and they also had the wide trade linkages with the other cultures such as Egyptian culture and Mesopotamian culture. There were evidences as well. And in fact, when we talk about the Indus Valley civilization, this civilization, apart from its elaborate town planning, trade networks, and also agricultural practices, it is also technically or technologically more and more sophisticated. This is being evident from the fact that in various fields including metallurgy, ceramics, hydraulic engineering. So there were different fields. In those different fields, people of Harappan civilization have exhibited this technological sophistication as well. And in fact, the name Harappan derives from the archaeological site called Harappa, and one of the first sites which were discovered in the modern day Pakistan. And if you closely look at this map, you could also see Harappa and its location, and also identify the key sites in the Indus Valley civilization. So because it is also very important that in exam you may be asked which of the sites are located in India and which of the sites are located in Pakistan, and arrange sites of Indus Valley civilization from east to west or west to east. So this is how questions are generally being asked. So therefore you have to carefully go through all the Indus Valley sites through this map. And as I've already explained to you, there are certain key features of Indus Valley civilization. So we'll look into those key features of Indus Valley civilization. What are those features, and how these features are very important, and how they are symbolizing the essence of Indus Valley civilization's urban planning. And if you look at the urban planning, as I have already explained, in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, so there were grid patterns which were existing in town planning, and there is also a well planned, most advanced drainage system and even underground drainage system. And when we talk about this drainage system, each house has a separate bathroom, and these bathrooms are linked with the public drain as well. And these drainages were also covered with the stone slabs, and also the fired brick or burnt brick were extensively used across different constructions by the people of Indus Valley civilization. And apart from that, when we talk about the economy and trade of a people of Indus Valley civilization, this civilization has engaged extensively in trade with the regions such as Mesopotamia, because remember, as I have already told you, that trade and commerce is a very important occupation of people of the Indus Valley civilization. And according to some historians, people who used to do trade and commerce, they used to live in citadel and lower town. Citadel is a place where people who are economically progressive used to live. However, normal people, general people used to live in this lower town of this Indus Valley civilization. So therefore there were number of contemporary civilizations along with the Indus Valley civilization. On the west of Harappan civilization there was Egyptian civilization, which is a bit older civilization compared to the Indus Valley civilization, but there is enough evidence to confirm that people of Indus Valley civilization have extensive trade and commerce linkages with the Mesopotamian cultures in present-day Iran and Iraq regions, because of the evidence of many seals which are belonged to the Indus Valley civilization were found in the present-day present-day Iraq and Iran. So thereby coming to the conclusion that people of Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization have extensive linkages with the Mesopotamian civilization in terms of trade and commerce as well. And in fact, Harappans have developed a separate or developed a special writing system, and this writing system is called as Indus script. And apart from being Indus script, so they have also used a method for writing, and they use the method for writing, and this particular method is called as a Bostrofedon method. Okay, so this method is called as Bostrofedon method. And the script of the Harappan people is not yet deciphered, because the script looks like a pictographic form, and several historians tried to decipher the script of a people of Harappan civilization, but so far not yet deciphered. If we successfully decipher the script of Harappan civilization or people of Harappan civilization, that could throw light on important aspects of the society, economy, culture and economy, everything related to the Indus Valley civilizations, right? So apart from that, people of Harappan civilization also have a wide expertise in the areas of making seals, pottery and jewelry as well. Men and women used to wear anklets, beads, different types of jewelry, so everything which are being made by the artisans of the Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization. Terracotta figurines are most famous. Along with that, the copper statue of dancing girl, which was discovered in Mohenjo-daro. So all these things have been indicating that the mastery and the skill of artisans in the Indus Valley civilization. And in fact, Mohenjo-daro is one of the biggest city in the Indus Valley civilization, and Mohenjo-daro was divided into two main parts. So one part is known as the citadel, as I have already explained to you, and the other part of the Mohenjo-daro city is known as the lower town. Now when we talk about citadel, what exactly is the citadel? It is constructed on a mud brick platforms, and it was walled and likely served special public purposes. This was the citadel. And apart from citadel, there was also a lower town within the Mohenjo-daro, because remember, Mohenjo-daro was divided into two different parts. So in lower town, it was also walled, and it was also built on a raised platform. So therefore it has been indicating that a systematic approach to the construction. So however, a well-designed drainage system was a hallmark of the Harappan cities, because every house in the Harappan civilization or Harappa or even Mohenjo-daro was connected to the street drains, and these street drains are made of mortar, lime and gypsum and all these material. So therefore we could come to the conclusion, because these are not adequate when we talk about Indus Valley civilization or Harappan civilization. There were a number of other things we could extensively talk about this civilization, but these are some of the key features or key characteristic features of the Indus Valley civilization, and that makes this civilization more and more unique and special in India's history, right? So I hope you got a clear idea or some idea with respect to the Harappan civilization. And the next important article is about the Financial Action Task Force, and how recently the Financial Action Task Force has done an assessment of India with respect to the effectiveness of the measures that India has been taking on to deal with the money laundering. and we'll try to understand what are the key findings of this financial action task force. But first and foremost, we'll try to understand what is FATF. So FATF is a financial action task force. It is a group of 40 countries from different parts of the world, and the major responsibility objective of establishing financial action task force is to counter terror financing, counter terror financing, and also countering money laundering. It also established to counter money laundering, terrorist financing, because remember that money laundering is one of the potential source of finance for organized crime, drug trafficking, organized crime. So when we say organized crime again involves drug trafficking and human trafficking, human trafficking. So all these things, different things, and even arms trade as well, arms trade. So all these different things comes as part of the organized crime. So therefore, in order to deal with the organized crime, so we have to curb, or every country across the world need to curb the money laundering. And even terrorism is one of the potential source. Even state actors and non-state actors are actively extending support to the terrorism. So therefore, countering terrorism is one of the very important aspect or objective of the financial action task force. However, if any country failed to counter money laundering and even counter terrorist financing, even if any country has been supporting money laundering or terror financing, so financial action task force would categorize those different countries into gray list and then the blacklist. So first, as a warning, a country would be included into gray list. So if that particular country has or have made no improvements at all, and that country would be again sent back to the blacklist. So it would be worse and most serious in nature, right? So this is about the financial action task force. So we'll try to understand what is the assessment of financial action task force with respect to India's efforts in money laundering and also countering terror financing. So as per the report which was published by the financial action task force, India has employed an effective system, right? So this particular report of financial action task force has been emphasizing that India has employed one of the best and effective system, and this system has improved the anti-money laundering, and even it tackled the counter-terrorist financing over the past 5 years. However, but still there is a room for the improvement as per the financial action task force in different aspects, such as a long pendency of trials and even shortcoming in assessment of money laundering risks which are emanating from offenses such as human trafficking. So this was the observation or the findings of the financial action task force with respect to India's measures or effectiveness of those measures in countering money laundering, right? So what are the economic and risk landscape which is existing? Because now India is a very well known as a developing country, and it is not a developed country. So a financial action task force India as a lower middle income country. India is not even a middle income country, rather we are a lower middle income country, right? So with world's 5th largest economy in terms of GDP, and in fact world's 3rd largest economy in terms of the purchasing power parity, India faces significant money laundering risks such from crimes such as fraud, corruption, and even drug trafficking, and therefore it is very important, and it is the need of the hour to take important and immediate steps to effectively counter money laundering and even different financing which could further fuel crimes such as the organized crimes such as drug trafficking, human trafficking, arms trade, etc. So India confronts several serious threats from a lot of terrorist organizations such as ISIL and Al Qaeda, and even Islamic State of this Khorasan province in Afghanistan, Al Qaeda, so Jamaat Dawa. So there are a lot of terrorist organizations. From those terrorist organizations, India has been constantly or regularly facing different threats, so thereby necessitating improved prosecution and even sanctions for terrorist financiers. So whoever financing these terrorist organizations within India or outside India, India should be able to take effective measures to counter such terrorist financiers, so that they never finance these terrorist organizations, and the money would be used against India, disturbing peace and creating instability and violence in different parts of India. So we'll understand the financial inclusion and the transparency that is required on the part of India to deal effectively with the money laundering and also terrorist financing. Now, India so far significantly boosted financial inclusion, that is being evident from the fact that we have a Jan Dhan Yojana program. Under this Jan Dhan Yojana program, zero savings accounts were opened on a large scale. Zero savings accounts were opened on a large scale, especially women, and this also leads to more and more unbanked people were coming back into the banking, and increasing penetration of the banking through banking correspondence. Everything has resulted in a significant sustained boost to the financial inclusion, with more citizens have been gaining access to bank accounts and even digital payment ecosystems as well. However, there is a strong understanding of risks in the financial sector, particularly among the commercial banks, although the smaller institutions require the further development. Right, so these are some of the observations or the findings of the Financial Action Task Force. Now we'll understand what exactly is money laundering and what are the common sources of criminal proceeds in this money laundering. So try to understand what is money laundering. Money laundering is generally a method or the process of transforming proceeds from the criminal activities to disguise their illegal origin. Right, so in fact understand that this drug trafficking, illegal drug trafficking has been taking place. Through drug trafficking, or not just drug trafficking, or even through corruption, they have earned some money, and so through corruption or drug trafficking, so they have earned some money, and through these illegal activities, whatever money that they have earned, they convert this black money into they convert this illegal money into legal money, into the legal money, and that is known as the money laundering or the process of money laundering. And this allows criminals to enjoy their profits without attracting attention to the underlying illicit activities. So this particular process is known as money laundering, and you can also go through the stages of money laundering. So first, you can talk about the placement. So illicit funds are introduced into the legitimate financial system. So integration of these laundered funds are merged back into the economy, appearing as legal and clean, and layering complex transactions are conducted to obscure origin of money. So all these things would be done by the money launderers to convert the illegal money into legal money, and whatever money that they have acquired or they have earned, so they would just convert this illegal money and into legal money, so that they can continue continue those activities, those illicit activities. Now, what are the common sources through which they would earn this money in an illegal manner? So there are certain illegal activities such as arms sales, drug trafficking, smuggling, organized crime, and even prostitution rings, etc. So all these things are part of the illegal activities which are being carried out by the different organizations, different agencies in different parts of the world, across different countries. And apart from that, there are certain financial crimes also, including embezzlement, insider trading, bribery to the government officials or the contractors, giving bribes to the government officials or the politicians, and even the computer fraud or the online fraud, which different hackers regularly do. And what are the objectives of the money laundering? When we talk about the objectives of money laundering, criminals generally aim to control their funds while minimizing attention to their illegal activities. So they wanted to minimize attention of the law enforcement agencies to their activities. So that's how they usually convert the illegal illicit money into the legal money. And when we talk about the legislative framework which is present in India to deal with the money laundering, so there were number of legislative measures that India has adopted apart from the international cooperation in the area of counter-terrorism and also money laundering, right? So counter-terrorism, money laundering. So when we talk about the international cooperation in these areas, there's a financial action task force, right? We have financial action task force. The international community has established this financial action task force, and it was established in the year 1989. So you just remember this when it was established. So it was established in the year 1989, and in fact this financial action task force is an intergovernmental organization, and in fact this FATF sets international standards to combat money laundering and also terrorist financing, as I have already explained, because it is the need of the hour to prevent organized crime and organized crime network groups and also different terrorist organizations, and state support to those terrorist organizations along with the non-state actors actively funding or supporting these terrorist organizations. Now, as part of the mandate of the Financial Action Task Force, so it has issued 40 recommendations, and those 40 recommendations provided for the framework to countries to prevent and even combat these financial crimes which involve financing these illegal illicit activities or organized crime groups and even money laundering as well. And in fact, India has become the 36th member of the Financial Action Task Force in the year 2010. Remember that India is one of the victims of terrorism, and India is as a Financial Action Task Force rightly held that India is the 5th largest economy in terms of GDP. So therefore there is a higher chance of money laundering, and even India has also been facing a lot of threats from the neighboring countries with respect to terrorism or regular terrorist attacks, radicalism and Islamic fundamentalism. So therefore India, being part of the Financial Action Task Force, would best serve its interests. So therefore India became the 36th member of the Financial Action Task Force in the year 2010. So however, when India joined the Financial Action Task Force, and in fact as in response to the international obligation that falls on India, India has enacted the Prevention of Money Laundering Act in the year 2002 under Article 253 of the Indian Constitution. And in fact, so when we talk about the core and the most important objective of Prevention of Money Laundering Act, so it aims to address the laundering of illicit funds or illegal funds which are generated through activities such as drug trafficking, human trafficking, arms trade, etc. And by targeting the flow of these illegal proceeds or illegal money which enters into the mainstream economy, a legislation, the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, aims to protect the financial infrastructure of the country. And in fact, in recent times, Enforcement Directorate is very often seen in news, and this Enforcement Directorate also gets a lot of powers or even draconian powers from the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, so that the money laundering or on the crime of money laundering there will be a strict action would be taken. And in fact, properties would also be confiscated as part of the Prevention of Money Laundering Act. So there are certain stringent provisions so which aims at preventing the money laundering on a large scale across different parts of India, right? So next important article, simultaneous elections. Remember that we have already discussed about this simultaneous elections in our yesterday's class. And when we talk about the simultaneous elections, when I say simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha And state legislative assemblies, we have almost 28 state legislative assemblies, if I am not wrong. So 28 state legislative assemblies and one general elections, Lok Sabha elections. So as of now, different state Lok Sabha, different state legislative assembly elections are held at different periods of time, right? So until 1967 we have the simultaneous elections. So that means general elections to Lok Sabha and almost all state legislative assembly elections were held one single point of time. But after 1967, due to multiple reasons, due to lack of stability, due to president's rule, due to lack of majority of the political parties, coalition governments, so all these reasons, after 1967, simultaneous elections were never held again. So therefore now Center has been thinking about conducting elections to the state legislative assemblies and general elections in one single point of time, because of lot of benefits it has for the country. So that is also very close to the idea of one nation and one election, right? So that is also very close to the idea of one nation, one election. Okay, so I hope you have the basic understanding about this simultaneous elections. So union government has decided to proceed with the recommendation of high level committee, which is led by the former President of India Ramnath Kovind, to implement simultaneous elections for Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies. And this panel of Ramnath Kovind has also recommended certain amendments or changing the provisions of Article 83 of the Indian Constitution. And Article 83 of the Indian Constitution deals with the elections to the Lok Sabha. And apart from Article 83 of the Indian Constitution, 172 amendments to Article 172 were also recommended by this Ramnath Kovind panel. And in fact, this Ramnath Kovind panel has appointed to look into the feasibility of conducting simultaneous elections in India. And in fact, this simultaneous elections, or the idea of one nation, one election, is widely opposed by different political parties and number of other stakeholders in the civil society. However, this move from the central government aims at synchronizing elections at multiple levels to enhance governance and also reduce the costs across different levels. And that is what the government has been looking for when it has been decided to conduct simultaneous elections. And in fact, a committee which is headed by a former President of India Ramnath Kovind recommended conducting simultaneous Lok Sabha and state legislative elections, followed by municipal and panchayat polls within 100 days. This was the recommendation of the high level panel or the committee on simultaneous elections. And in fact, the simultaneous elections also require a constitutional amendments, as I have already told you that Article 83 and Article 172 have to be amended in both Parliament and state legislative assemblies, so that would ensure conducting simultaneous elections in a very shorter period of time. However, the rationale include reducing the election costs and also mitigating the continuous campaigns by the political parties. Now, one thing that we need to understand, what are the advantages or what are the benefits of conducting these simultaneous polls? So that is what we have to understand here. So when we talk about conducting these simultaneous polls, so it is very important that during simultaneous polls, so election, the code of conduct, so code of conduct so is one aspect. Because of code of conduct, generally what has been happening, the welfare programs or the developmental initiatives are not properly implemented whenever there is a code of conduct. So therefore country is always in an election mode. So therefore a code of conduct has also been prohibiting government to undertake certain welfare or developmental programs. So therefore, in order to make sure that it is a festival of democracy and elections across the country would be conducted once in a 5 years, so that voters could participate more and more enthusiastically in the election process. So that is the one reason that the center has decided to go ahead with the simultaneous elections. And apart from that, expenditure would be substantially reduced, right? So expenditure, and even when we talk about the conducting simultaneous polls, the security personnel, right? So security personnel have to be regularly deployed to the different polling stations, and that would also leads to the compromising national security as well. So because of all these reasons, it is decided that we need to conduct simultaneous elections. So there is, however, there is a minimal empirical data supporting the claim that simultaneous elections will lead to the significant cost savings, right? So there will not be any significant cost savings, and there is also no data which is available for conducting simultaneous elections. And currently general elections are already time consuming, and synchronizing elections may prolong this process further. So these are the disadvantages of conducting or holding simultaneous elections. And even additionally, a state legislative assembly is dissolved prematurely or early, so midterm elections will not grant a full year term, undermining the cost cutting rationale. Because remember that we have 20 more than or around 28 state legislative assemblies, and so we have a parliamentary form of government. And in this parliamentary form of government, imagine that no party has got the clear majority. And what about the government in a particular state which dissolved prematurely, half of this 5-year term? So what about the remaining period of time? So there will be no government in the remaining period of time. So if we plan to synchronize elections for the state legislative assemblies and also Lok Sabha, so there are a number of practical issues or the practical problems which have been existing when it comes to conducting simultaneous elections. So all these issues have to be considered before going ahead with the simultaneous elections. And there is also a need for consulting with the different stakeholders, the political parties, civil societies, and different parties have to be consulted to go ahead with the simultaneous elections, right? So today, apart from that, the proposal also risks undermining the federal structure as well, because Indian constitution has provided for the federal form of government, where we have the union government at the national level, and also the state legislative assemblies or the state governments at the state's provincial level. So therefore we have federalism or the federal structure, and this proposal risks undermining the federal structure by reducing the significance of state and even the local elections as well, so which have a distinct roles in multi-tiered governance systems. Now in fact, each electoral tier allows voters to make choices based on specific socio-economic factors and local issues, fostering diversity and representation. The centralization of elections could also further dilute the importance of these levels and alter the nature of political representation as well. Okay, so these are certain disadvantages which have been existing, and in previous class also we have discussed the simultaneous polls or the simultaneous elections in a very detailed manner, right? So today we have one important mains practice question. So this question is with respect to US-China trade war and or US-China potential conflict, and how India could respond with respect to or in the backdrop of US-China tensions. The question is, the growing tensions between the United States and China have been characterized by some analysts as a new Cold War or Cold War 2.0. Now in this context, how should India navigate the foreign policy comment? Now generally when I say a Cold War, so we have seen a Cold War between a capitalist bloc and a socialist bloc. So the capitalist bloc headed by US and the socialist bloc which was headed by the Soviet Union, the erstwhile Soviet Union. So with the collapse of the Soviet Union, so Cold War came to an end around 1990s, and US emerged as a hegemonic power. However, experts now looking at the current world order as Cold War 2.0 between USA and China. Now in this context or in this backdrop, how should India navigate its foreign policy? So that is what we are going to discuss, and this question also has a proper approach, and this approach will help you to frame or structure the answer. So first and foremost, you have to introduce US-China relations and then discuss tensions between USA and China in the second part, and then discuss India's foreign policy in the context of new Cold War 2.0, and conclude the answer by writing a way forward for this question. And initially you could start with a brief introduction. The introduction could be, so the relationship between US and China in recent times has undergone a profound transformation. And in fact, the relationship between China and USA has marked by a complex interplay of economic competition, technological rivalry, security concerns, and even the geopolitical tensions as well. So these are different factors which are defining which are defining US and China relationships, including technological rivalry. So we have seen the technological rivalry in terms of the 5G technology and security concerns of each other, that China flies a spy balloon over the airspace of the US, and geopolitical tensions in the South China Sea and also the Indo-Pacific region, and economic competition. The example of economic competition is trade war, right? So trade war is an example of economic competition. So therefore there are different tensions which are existing, and looking at all these phenomenon, experts or geopolitical experts have been making assumptions that we are living in a world order which is defined by Cold War 2.0 between US and China. And in fact, in this context, how could India navigate its foreign policy and how it could pose new challenges for India? So we'll look into the tensions between USA and China in this part in a very detailed manner. So if you look at tensions between USA and China, so US-China trade relationship is one of the focal point of tensions, because when US was under the president of US was under the Donald Trump, when Donald Trump was the president of US, so there was a trade war between China and USA over different products. So tariffs and then counter tariffs from vice versa from both of these countries. So both these countries have engaged in the trade war and imposing tariffs on each other's goods as well. So this has been indicating that the tensions between USA and China on the economic front or trade front, and even there was a competition for the technological dominance, particularly in areas such as 5G, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, has also heightened the tensions as well. And even there were concerns over the human rights violations, particularly in relation to the treatment of Uyghur Muslims in Xinjiang province of China, because remember that US very often openly claims that there is a human rights violation which has been taking place in Xinjiang province of China, where Uyghur Muslim population live. And even political developments in Hong Kong have also strained the diplomatic relations between both USA and China. And even South China Sea has been a source of tension, with US expressing concerns about China's assertiveness in the region, right? So these are a certain tensions which are existing between USA and China. So however, if you look at India's foreign policy in the context of new Cold War, so we just look into the how India could move ahead and what should be the India's policy in this context. Now India traditionally followed a policy called non-alignment policy, or even the policy of strategic autonomy, right? So what is this policy of strategic autonomy? Strategic autonomy generally means that so India will not form the alliances, India will not form the military blocks, military alliances with any other country against another country. And in fact, India's policy will not be influenced by any other third party. Rather, India will look into its national interest or its own core national interests, and India would act as per its interest alone. However, in the current scenario, India may continue to pursue a balanced approach, avoiding the entanglements in the formal alliances that could potentially jeopardize its independent decision making ability. Because remember, when we talk about the quadrilateral security dialogue, and in fact there was a strong desire from countries like Australia, US to turn this quadrilateral security dialogue framework into a military alliance against China. However, India is strongly against, or India is reluctant to turn Quad into a military alliance, and that is why countries like Australia and even Australia, US have come together and they have formed an alternative grouping within the Indo-Pacific region because of India's reluctance and India's policy of non-alignment and strategic autonomy. Because we need to balance our relations between China and our relations between US and Russia. Russia is also a very important partner for us, and both United States and China are significant trade partners for India. Maintaining economic ties with both nations, both India and US and China, is very, very important because China is the largest trade partner for India. So in this backdrop, it is very important that India needs to maintain close relations with both of these countries. And in fact, India should also strive to enhance the economic cooperation, at the same time mitigating the potential risks which are being associated with the global economic tensions, and fostering strong ties within its immediate neighborhood and the broader Indo-Pacific region can be beneficial for India. Engaging in regional forums and promoting stability in the region, so that could further enhance, that could further strengthen the strategic standing of India as well. And apart from that, India is also one of the strong participant of number of international organizations such as United Nations and even World Trade Organization, and India is also strongly supports the aspirations, the interests of the developing world or the global south. So therefore it allows India to contribute to the global governance and also advocate for the interests of not just India but also other countries in the global south while maintaining its principled stand on different issues. So that is how India has been navigating its foreign policy or existing geopolitical flux. So therefore ultimately in conclusion you could write that India's foreign policy, no doubt it is flexible, dynamic, and it is also responsive to the evolving global dynamics. So therefore, India should seek to protect its national interests, promote economic growth, and also contribute to global growth, peace, and stability while advocating for unnecessary entanglements in power rivalries. Now, we should avoid these unnecessary entanglements in power rivalries. So that's how, in a positive and optimistic note, you could conclude this answer. So that's how you can write this answer. And that's all for this lecture, and thank you so much. And if you like this work, so please subscribe our YouTube channel and also hit the like button. Thank you.